Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
Wow, even got the gloves. You look like Jonathan Bender over there.
Dude,
Come
I'm
on, give
going
me
full
one of those. Give me one of them. Hey, hey,
I,
hey,
I
hey.
I'm going I'm going full homeless look today.
All right, I like it. Well, you're a very classy, almost looking guy, in a home of all places. So last time we were here, we kind of dreamt up our dream band for the hard rock heavy metal scene. So we're going to do it again. Except this time we're going to just do the rock side of things, make up our dream rock '80s band. And Lewis shocked me some. You shocked me with some of your calls last time.
Yeah? Which one shocked you actually the most?
Um, I think your vocalists.
All right, you were totally
Yeah,
expecting Dio, right?
I was really expecting Dio.
Yeah.
And I heard Jeff Scott Soto was so pleased that he sent you a early birthday cameo.
Yeah, thanks again for that, John. That's super cool. He did a really great job on doing the cameo, very personal, and I'm really looking forward to meeting him in a couple of weeks.
It's gonna be a good time. All right, so why don't we just get to it? We'll do the same format. We're gonna talk about our dream '80s rock band. So again, unless you go rogue, which you're known to do, that means we're gonna pick a vocalist, two guitar players, bassist, keyboards, and drums. All right, so why don't you start us off? We're going to do the same thing and pick your '80s rock guitar player, your first one.
Okay, I'm just gonna go a little rogue because I went
Lil.
just a little, and I'm staying within the guidelines of having the two guitarists and then the single rest of the band members. I sort of went pop rock, and so this it'll probably have some interesting ones in here. Again, overthought this, just kept trying to think who would I be able to piece together that would actually work, had similar musical tastes or flexibility. So with that in mind, my first guitar player is the guitar player from Duran Duran, Andy Taylor.
Nice.
And he's a really great guitar player. I think a bit underrated. Played in Duran Duran, obviously, Power Station, and probably other projects that I'm not aware of.
The solo
So
stuff, which was fantastic.
yeah, I remember that one song that you sent me that it was a very cool tune.
Yeah.
So again, feel that he's quite underrated, and so he's my first pick.
And sadly, he's battling cancer right now, which is really horrific. I didn't even know about it until Duran Duran mentioned it at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame event. He wasn't able to attend because of it, which is really, really sad. I feel very fortunate that you and I were able to see him perform with Duran Duran when they made a comeback. God, early 2000s, I think, right?
That was probably around 2004.
Yeah, that was a great show, especially to see all the original members. That was actually a good call, and that was somebody I was actually considering as well. I went with somebody else that has been in the news a lot lately, and for sadly nothing positive. But he's one of those players that I've always found to be very underrated, doesn't get the credit he deserves. And I'm talking about Neil Sean from Journey.
Oh,
Um,
nice. I thought about him as well.
yeah, I thought I've always admired his guitar playing. I've seen him perform live a bunch of times. His work with Journey in the '80s, his work with Bad English, who I loved, another totally underrated band. Hagar, Sean, Aronson, Shreve, in the '80s. Just a great guitar player, lots of soul. I think he's just fantastic, and he just doesn't get enough credit. So that was my first choice for my first guitar player.
A really good pick. I actually thought about him as well, as I mentioned. Yeah, any guitar player that at 15 or 16 is poked on or tapped on the shoulder by Santana to say, "Yeah, why don't you come and play with me?"
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal guitar player, and I agree. I don't think he gets his fair shake. So great guitar player, a great pick, great songwriter.
All right. So who you got? Dangling, dabbling on the keys, dangling on the keys.
I struggled with this one a little bit, and I actually had to go do some searches on the internet to sort of
Yeah.
try and find somebody that fit what I was trying to do. I thought about Chick Corea, who was more in the jazz vein, great keyboard player, but I ended up with Herbie Hancock, who I thought would be a better fit.
Okay.
Again, one of those musicians that I think was very well known for his hit Rocket that didn't really showcase his talents as a keyboard player. He's a super accomplished keyboard player, and I thought he would be awesome for the super band.
Wow, that's a very interesting pick. I didn't overthink it like you did, and I didn't necessarily go for who I consider the best, in terms of musicianship because there's so many fantastic keyboardists. But I picked what I liked, and I actually chose Dennis DeYoung from Styx.
Oh, good call.
So always liked the sound he got. He's a great songwriter, great singer. I've seen him in concerts as well. Very accomplished keyboard player. Wouldn't say he's the best musician, but for what I would want to hear for an 80s rock band, I think he's perfect. And, you think about him tinkling the ivories on, stuff like Babe, Best of Times, things like that. I felt he was a worthy addition. Yes, I know not as much of his stuff was in the 80s as it was the 70s, but still my pick.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I also think that he is underrated as a keyboard player. Great all-around musician, great vocalist, and yeah, solid pick.
Yeah, it's a shame. I'd really love to see the remaining original members of Styx get back together. I know he wants to, and the other guys don't want to have anything to do with them. And obviously, I'm not privy to the internal politics or the egos or the dynamics there. But I will say I saw, I never saw them in their heyday, but I saw Styx perform and also I think the early 2000s without him. And I saw him perform a few years ago solo, performing a lot of Styx material. And I would say he was significantly more enjoyable to me personally in concert than what's being touted as Styx these days.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that must have been a really cool show to see. I'd heard a lot of really positive things about his solo show, and he breaks out obviously a lot of stick stuff. So very cool.
Yeah,
Again, super solid pick.
thank you. We're moving on. We're moving quickly on this. So, who's on the 4 string, 8 string, 12 string, 36 string bass for you?
So again, I really tried to think about people that would fit the kind of music that I was looking for, which is going to be sort of, rock, sort of pop, and there I go with my Italianism. Um,
You
and
sure you're not, you're sure you're Portuguese?
Yeah, Portuguese are known for doing that crap too, and,
All
and
right.
speaking very loudly. But so I ended up going with Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers
Wow.
because I figured that he's got a lot of that funk that a lot of these other artists that I've sort of got in here that could get into. I think he's a really great bass player. I'm not a huge Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. I've got a couple of their CDs. I do think he's a really great bass player, and I think that he would be perfect for this lineup that I've got.
Why don't you just admit you just want to see him perform naked on stage with your band?
Well, no, he'd be wearing the sock.
I was watching a video recently of him performing. I think it was like Woodstock '99, and he wasn't wearing anything except I think shoes. And it's like, all right, good for you, man. I'm better man than I am.
Different strokes.
Yeah,
No pun intended.
yeah. It just was like, wow. I mean, all right, I'm not gonna go there. All right, so for me, this wasn't that difficult of a choice. This is somebody everybody knows in terms of they've heard him play. Nobody knows his name. And I'm going, of course, with Leland Sklar. Of course, right? Because I just said nobody knows his name, Leland Sklar. So he's most prominent for playing with Phil Collins and Phil Collins' touring band. If you look at the guy's discography, the albums that he's performed on is just amazing and it runs the gamut. So I was just trying to quickly before we did this write down some of the people he performed with on their albums in the 80s. Bonnie Raitt, Dolly Parton, Poco, Juice Newton, Barry Manilow, Don Henley, Sheena Easton, of course, Phil Collins, Cher, Kim Carnes, Debbie Boone, Laura
Wow.
Branigan, uh, Poco, Peebo Bryson, and Roberta Flack, and Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Oh my gosh, man.
And I didn't even finish. We had to jump on this. I took an unexpected detour on that couch that causes sleeping. And so I didn't write down as many as I possibly could have. But I mean, that's a pretty impressive lineup of just his output in the 80s. If you're interested in Leland Sklar, during COVID, he would go on and he would do a lot of, he'd go on his YouTube, and he has a YouTube channel, and he'd play along to all these different songs. And my God, how his brain remembers all these songs. It was crazy. I don't know if he rehearsed beforehand or what, but he would perform a lot of the Phil Collins stuff, and just really amazing to watch and just see what talent, how talented of a bass player this guy is, and just makes it look effortless. You know, just an amazing. I've seen him perform. I've been fortunate enough to meet him. He performs in a band called Immediate Family, which is members of a lot of backing bands that, again, names you wouldn't know, forming a lot of the songs that they helped write or performed on. Just incredible and super, super nice guy. Just a total legend, but somebody that's not known. And Leland Sklar, I could put him on any album and he'd fit.
Awesome, man. I thought that you might pick him. I was thinking, that's some. I knew that's somebody that you really respect highly as a musician, and that you, like you said, had the opportunity to meet him not too long ago and watch him play. So yeah, I checked out his YouTube channel when you forwarded it to me, and yeah, he's solid, man. Great musician as you would expect to be with all of the quality bands that you just call out and all the amazing artists. So yeah, very, very good pick.
Yeah. My apologies to John Taylor because that's who Leland Sklar bumped off, because I think John Taylor of Duran Duran's another player that just does not get enough credit and has that funk and right in the pocket. You know, great bass player. But yeah, sorry, Leland fit it. So behind you, I see this beautiful drum kit. So why don't we go to drums? Like that
Pretty.
segue?
I do. And it's sort of
Drums
funny because
behind you every week, but I'm going to pretend I actually noticed it this time. And let's go to you because there's a drum set that miraculously appeared behind you right before I said, let's talk about drums.
I was looking at my listing musicians, and I don't know if you noticed me lifting my glasses up, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yes,
oh,
100 times. It was a little distracting.
I was like, oh crap, I forgot to pick a drummer. So that was me searching really quickly on the
I thought
internet
you
to,
just were going rogue again, going, I'm not going to have drums in my band. They don't need percussion.
so I really quickly pulled one out of the hat here, and
Out of the hat, I'm going to probably say the other end, but okay.
whatever, choose your orifice. Um, So, and I'm actually sort of satisfied with this last minute thought that I had, because I really love the sound of this guy's drums. I don't know how well he would fit into the genre that I'm thinking, but he's a super, super solid drummer. And the production of his drums are always top notch. So this is Jeff Porcaro from oh,
Toto.
thank you, Toto. And I,
He's
I,
from somewhere.
I,
We don't know where, but let me throw out his name. I really love the guy.
I'm always I don't think well under pressure with stuff like that. Just name recollection just
God,
doesn't
you'd
come to
almost
me.
think you're in your mid 50s with that kind of memory.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I know. Thank God I'm not, right? But anyway, yeah. So Jeff, again, anything that I've heard him play on, I've seen YouTube videos of him, like how he came up with different drum beats for songs that are pretty popular with Toto and stuff. So yeah, that's my pick. I would hope that he would play well with the other guys.
I think he's talented enough he could play with anybody. Again, all these people are so talented. The interesting thing for me is I've heard a million covers of Rosanna, or I'm sorry, Africa, and nobody plays the drums correctly before it goes into the chorus. The way he has those little beats, because it's almost like it's on an odd time. And I'm not a drummer, obviously, but it's almost like it's on an odd time where you wouldn't expect the beat to be. And I've never heard a drummer reproduce it that way. Never, ever, ever. And all the times I've seen a band, do Africa. I don't know why, but I thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit for anyone. So if anyone sees somebody play that correctly on a cover, the little drum beat right before the chorus of Africa, let me know because I want to see it.
Excellent. I'll have to go back and listen to that again because I haven't really paid that
Yeah,
much attention to it.
just when you hear it, you're gonna be like, oh, if you're air drumming to it, you're like, oh, it doesn't go there, and it's like awkward, and nobody does it that way. Um, Well, I guess I'm going to stick with the rhythm section, the bass and drums that probably knows each other better than anyone. And I'm going with Phil Collins. And, for my band, you have so many people that can write songs, they can sing songs, and they can play an instrument. And Phil Collins fits that bill. And just for his drumming on In the Air Tonight, I know it's simple, but it's so iconic. It doesn't get better than that. How many people have something that's so iconic? And I'm sorry, it's almost impossible to hear that song and not air drum that part.
That's
Yeah,
like at least one of my favorite parts of the song, man, where
yeah,
those drums kick in, and again, it is one of the key drum licks. It's one of the most memorable ones that I can think of. The only other one I can think of is John Cougar Mellencamp. What is that one? It's like do 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 do. Um,
or no. So let
Jack
it.
and Diane,
Yeah, Jack and Diane.
Jack and Diane.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, those are the two that really stick out to me. So great pick. I actually did sort of do searches on drummers. I just forgot to write one down. But Phil Collins was one that I thought of as well. I just didn't think that he would fit well with everybody else, but solid pick. Great musician.
yeah. I wasn't overthinking it like you. I was thinking, who would I want to hear? And who knows? I mean, I know at least he played with the bass player, right?
Yep.
But and the thing about it is, when you think about Phil Collins, yes, you think of him as a front man, everything. He wasn't hired to be the front man for Genesis. He was hired to be the drummer. Just worked out very well for Genesis and brought them from a progressive, rock band to a very successful pop band, essentially. And so that really makes it that his drumming and being able to handle those odd time changes and everything else um, really make him a better drummer than we probably give him credit for, because he's just not thought of. He's thought of as the funny guy in front of the band and everything, and he's so much more. And like I said, just based upon In the Air Tonight, and every time I have flares out, I have to stop myself from doing that air drumming to that with the flares in my hand, because I'm sure I'm gonna spray it all over me, and I'm already sucking in the fumes. But yeah, so In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins. That's my drummer. So you got guitar player number two.
Yes.
You haven't gone really rogue on me yet, so I don't know when it's coming.
No, this is probably as rogue as it's gonna get.
Okay.
So this one I had a really hard time with. Because this guy is just so multi-talented that I really didn't know whether I wanted him to be the singer. I didn't know whether I wanted him to be the keyboard player. I didn't know whether I wanted him to be the guitarist. I ended up placing him as the guitarist because, again, I do think that he's a little underrated as being a guitar player. Uh, he's mainly known for being him though, and it's Prince. So I never really appreciated him too much as a guitar player until I heard the very end of Let's Go Crazy. They used to have that playing at the jukebox in at Roundtable where I used to work, and where he just blasts off in this to amazing shredding solo. It's like, holy crap, man, this guy's something else. He's not just a pretty face. So yeah, I
You
again
found
had
him
a
to be
really
a
hard
pretty
time saying,
face.
what's that?
I'm gonna have a hard time letting that one go. You found nice to know you thought of him as a pretty face there, Lou.
Ah, well, I'm comfortable with my sexuality, but
At least it was
anyway,
somebody you could tower over, right? And take in a fight.
he was actually an inch shorter than I was, which sort of
That's what
shocked
I'm
me to learn that.
saying. Tower
Yeah,
over him.
yeah, oh, by an inch.
Semantics.
But yeah, so again, that's the person I went with. Great, great guitar player, great all around musician.
It's good that you mentioned him. I don't think he's another one, right? Because of he's Prince, and he gets a lot of credit for his singing and songwriting as he should, but his guitar playing doesn't get enough credit. And you're right that end of Let's Go Crazy is pretty amazing, and he played in so many different types of styles in the '80s, and just a great pick and somebody that doesn't get enough credit for his musicianship. I went another way, and some people are going to be like, I cheated on this one. Maybe I did. Don't know if this really fits rock, what I'm doing, but I don't care. Why can't I go rogue too?
It's
And
your band.
it's my band. And based upon the fact that this gentleman's known for so many different styles and everything, sadly no longer with us, I went with Gary Moore.
Oh, nice.
And he is somebody that does not get enough credit. You think about, John Sykes. He was a huge influence on John Sykes. He was a huge influence on Vivian Campbell. Um, just an amazing, amazing guitar player. The stuff he did with Thin Lizzy, stuff he did with his solo when he did the really hard rock stuff. And some of it was more rock. You know, the stuff that he did later on, the blues stuff, which wasn't really my thing, but he still was incredible. And having seen, unfortunately, I was only able to see him perform once. This was at the Warfield Theater. I think it was like right before, or not the Warfield, Wolfgang's. I'm sorry, Wolfgang's. And that was right before Wolfgang's. I think that was the last show at Wolfgang's and it burned down. Um,
Wow.
if you saw the audience that night, anybody, every local band, Testament, Exodus, I don't know if Hammett was there, but all the local guitar players were there in awe to see Gary Moore. And just an amazing guitar player. Could play in any style. He can play super fast and blow your mind, and he can slow it down and just rip your heart out. I think he'd fit in this band. He can also sing, though I think he's a much better guitar player than he is a vocalist. And so I had to include him.
Yeah, anytime that you include Gary Moore as a guitar player in anything, I mean, you can't go wrong. Even his blues stuff that he got into, right, a little later on in life, it's still really good. I don't have a lot of exposure to it, but I remember hearing the stuff that I hear. It's very soulful. Just he was a master at guitar. Undoubtedly, super underrated, super, super underrated. I don't know why he didn't make it more into the limelight than he did. And just the fact, as you mentioned, that you went to this concert and you'd see the who's who of musicians out there watching him it says something on its own.
Yeah, it was really a testament to his greatness that we were all there just to soak in Gary Moore, and he did not disappoint. And that was the Wild Frontier tour, just an amazing tour, which was very influenced by Celtic music. But again, the guy could play anything, so I could put him in a band, and he was going to rock the crap out of it. So um, we're down to our lead singer.
Excellent.
This one was hard for me. I'm not gonna lie. This one, even more than the metal, I think this was the biggest struggle I had for all of this.
I had a hard time too. I really wanted to go again with Jeff Scott Soto. I didn't because he was already included in the rock metal band that we did for the previous episode. But again, I thought he would have been a very, very good fit in this because he likes playing different kinds of music. I ended up going with somebody a little lesser known. Again, squeaked in there because he led his band in the late '80s, and the band was called the Dan Reed Network, and the singer is Dan Reed. So I
Wow.
always thought that Dan had a really really great voice, and I think that he would have been just a key in for this lineup because again of the versatility, the different flavors of music. It would have been really really interesting to see all these guys together.
It's interesting too because Dan Reed Network always had that funk influence, and I would have loved to seen him work with Prince. I think putting him with Flea, um, that would have been pretty amazing to see. But yeah, that's a really good call. And for those that haven't heard the Dan Reed Network, wow, it's hard. I think if you like Prince, if you like extreme, if you like good rock music, Dan Reed is needs to be checked out ASAP. And they're one of those bands that sadly really did nothing. Um, I don't. Did I introduce him to you, or was that Lorenz? Because I know Lorenz. The first time I ever went out with Lorenz, which is a mutual friend of ours, um, we were going to a comedy show, and he was listening to this. I don't know if it was a cassette or a CD that he had burned or whatever. And Dan Reed was on there, and I was like, "Oh, Dan Reed Network, cool." And he was just shocked that somebody in the U.S. knew who the hell Lorenz is from Germany, who the hell Dan Reed was, and that was aware of Dan Reed Network and their music. So I thought that was pretty funny, and that kind of solidified our, you know, commonality in music.
I think that it was you. I know that Lorenz had turned you on to that, and I know that
Oh, he didn't turn me on to that. That's what I was saying. I
oh, okay.
Yeah, when he played it in his car, I already was aware of it. I already had it, and I was like, "Oh, cool."
Okay, all right, good deal. Yeah, I missed
Didn't
that
listen to
part.
my story either. Thanks. Are
But
you my
I do.
wife?
No, 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 definitely not your wife,
Oh,
John.
thank you.
Um, I do remember that the I guess the biggest exposure that they got was that they played that song on that movie, The Cutting Edge.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, it I can't remember if it was you or Lorenzo. I want to say that it was you though. I want to say that I remember you playing this for me in your little red Toyota truck, and then I got into it, and then I ended up buying the CD. So uh, yeah, it's weird how they didn't make it bigger because they were so talented. I mean, the whole band was tight. They were all really great musicians. They all are really great musicians. They're still out there doing it. Um, and I guess they just didn't fit into a box, you know. I guess they just, record companies didn't know how to market them, and that's why they didn't get somewhere. Awesome band, awesome band.
I almost feel like nowadays they would probably be more popular if it came out now. So I think their music has sort of a timeless element to it. Um, and the fact that they're multicultural, I think would be much more appealing nowadays to the masses than maybe it was back then because, like you said, people didn't know how to market it, right? Like, what are you going to put them in? But yeah, I think that's an excellent pick. I went with somebody um, a lot more well known and probably more classic. And again, I struggled. I thought Ann Wilson, Pat Benatar, but ultimately I had to go with Steve Perry.
Nice.
You can't go wrong with Steve Perry. If you're talking 80s rock, who's got a better voice for 80s rock than Steve Perry? Um, you can say you prefer somebody else, but you can't argue Steve Perry had the classic 80s voice and was just such an influential part of rock history for the 80s. And, you know, just a wonderful output with what he did, both with Journey and solo. I mean, just timeless classics all around. Flawless execution, just pure beauty out of that voice. So I had to go with Steve.
Now, Steve's a solid pick, and I thought about him as well. He wouldn't fit in with the lineup that I've got. awesome singer. I think I mentioned in another episode that I was absolutely dragged, by my hair when I still had it to go see him play a solo show that he did. This was very shortly after he left Journey at the Warfield,
Right.
and dude just blew me away. Just absolutely won me over. It's just, man, flawless all night, just nailed everything. Super talented guy. Sings in a very, very high register. It's he's just a great singer. He's a great singer, has a great talent, and very, very great pick.
Well, I was lucky enough to see him with Journey in their heyday on the Escape tour at the Cow Palace. So that was the only time I got to see him. I remember we tried to see him in Reno or Tahoe, and unfortunately, no, Reno. And unfortunately, he canceled that show, and we never got to make it. But thankful I saw him once perform in his heyday with Journey. So I think we're almost going to run out of time here. So I don't want to keep this going. As usual, I appreciate everybody watching this. It was nice to be welcomed back to all the views. Meant a lot to us. So please continue to watch these. Let us know your picks. I always love hearing them. And you've always got some really cool picks and make me think of, wow, I should have went that direction or whatever. Just love to hear who you think we should have included that we didn't. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And Lewis, my brother, take us out.
Peace out.
Thank you guys. Lou, give me one of these before we leave. Thank you guys.